Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today I've got two sets of top 16 deck lists from two events that happened over the weekend. These were both on the 29th of March and large events to take a look at. The first of which was hosted by World Class Cards, who are a very distinguished team with some incredible players. They hosted a 5k event which featured 118 players, which is a nice big field, and we're going to be taking a look at Red Sabre Games, which is an organizer we've covered in the past, also with a large event, 128 players, and we are going to look at the top 16 deck lists for both of those events. So a lot of lists to look at. There is one top 8 deck list missing from one or the other, but besides that we are going to look at them all. However, there's an awful lot of Sapphire out there, so it might feel closer to actually looking at a top 8 deck lists because there's a lot of very similar decks, but nonetheless we're going to break it down. A shout out to the channel sponsor Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. But yeah, you can see we've been joined by Hades today. He's not feeling very well. He's feeling a bit sorry for himself, so he wants to be close, so he's here too. Anyway, let's take a look at some top 8 deck lists. So we'll start off with the World Class Cards event. In first place, we have the legendary Skylar Dunce, a member of a villain club in the ICL, a friend of mine, an incredible player, has been repping Blue Steel ever since the game begun. So this is a well-established name, an incredible player in first place in this huge event. My hat off to Sky, playing this version of Sapphire Steel that he is a big fan of, the no wheel Sapphire Steel list, playing Lucky Dimes. We've got the big Tamatoas. He's always been a big fan of Chicha in combination with 4 copies of Fishbone Quill. This Chicha, when you ink for a second time in a turn, you can draw a card. She is uninkable and she does have support, which can absolutely be relevant. But yeah, if we're playing her on 2 and then turn 3 we're playing Fishbone and then inking a second turn, then she's drawing you a resource, and the longer you can stick her on the board, the more you can double ink, courtesy of Fishbone or Sal the Azure at Sea. Those are our 2 ways of ramping. Then Chicha can get an awful lot of value. We're also playing 2 copies of the baby Jim Hawkins. Whenever you ink, he gets Challenger 2. So again, the more you ink, this could potentially, like, if you're aiming to ink twice per turn for Chicha and you've got Jim on the board, then he can be a Challenger 4, and that 4 willpower is super significant. Going to survive a lot of the very common threats like Storm and make Strength fight that need that 1 extra body to take him out. So a nice body to have on the board. We do have a heavy item package: the 4 Porb, the 4 Fortisphere, the 4 Quill we mentioned. We've got 2 Dime, and we're running 1 copy of Shield of Arendelle to give a character resist 1 to the start of the next turn. Another item to work in combination with the 4 Flavisham, the 4 shiny Tamatoa, and of course the 4 copies of Bell that we're running to be that super early beat stick. We're not playing Storm Rage on, we're playing Strength for Raging Fire and Zeus. Those are our songs. No Storm in here, but Bell's still great for singing Strength and just being an early beat stick on the board. 4 copies of Scrooge McDuck to find these items. And the 4/4 body is super nice. 2 copies of Fire the Cannons to shoot away Diablos or any early game small threats, or just extra damage along with a challenge for something particularly annoying that you want to get rid of. And of course 4 copies of the new Happy as a Clam Tamatoa, working with all these items. We know perfectly well that just 4 Porp is enough to make this Tamatoa really, really good. But with this wide item package here, you've got the Porps and the Fortisphere. The Shield of Arendelle might be nice to get back, even if you're then just inking it. If you're against Bengers and stuff, then getting back your Quills or your Dimes or whatever, and of course you can get back Dime with the other Tamatoa. So yeah, this is Sky's trademark, the no wheel Sapphire Steel list with Dimes, the very grindy control variants. And Sky's an incredible player, first place in this huge event, a massive shout out to him. In second place, we have Nicholas on a very similar list, the more grindy control version of No Wheel Blue Steel, but this card with a few extra toys. We are playing 4 copies of Storm Rage on, to go along with the Bell, and we're running 3 copies of Cogsworth, who has has Ward, but gives that blanket resist to all your characters, which can certainly help out with some challenges or some, against a lot of the popular Steel chip cards. And we're also running 2 copies of Aerial Treasure Collector. If you've got more items than your opponent, then she quests for 5. So her in combination with the Lucky Dime is a heck of a jump. 3 copies of the big Tamatoa, and a lot of similar cards here. No Chichas, we're running T-Pose instead. So more ramp in this deck, and we're running Vision of the Future. Sky was running 4 copies, just 2 copies in here. But yeah, it's a very similar deck. Sapphire Steel continuing to perform super well, and the Dime versions coming out on top in this event. So congratulations to Nicholas. We'll do all the blue steel together in top 8. We've got Tyler, again, a very similar sort of deck. We've got the dimes, we've got the big towers. For items, in addition to the usual package, we're running 1 copy of Greatstone Dragon and only 3 Fishbone Quill. This can be nice into discard decks for sure, where you don't want to deplete your hand as much. Well, to be fair, into discard, sometimes you want to deplete your hand, but if you do deplete your hand, then you still want to keep ramping, right? So Greatstone Dragon's a way that you can do that. But boom, again, for those small annoying things like Diablos, running just 2 copies of Storm to go along with the Bell. We are running T-Pose, so lots of ramping here. The Scrooges, 2 copies of Ariel, 2 copies of Hades as well for a bit of removal that isn't built into actions, so a way to get around P and sticking a body on the board, which is always good and works with Dime. So yeah, this again, 3 very, very similar iterations of blue steel, the more grindy, lucky dime versions, all performing particularly well. So congratulations to Tyler. In top 16, also on Sapphire Steel, and a similar version, is Kendall Burdett, also known as Actual No I'm Not, has moved over from his red-purple ruby amethyst roots and has opted to run a lot of Sapphire Steel these days, from what I'm hearing. And yeah, a similar deck to the ones we've just looked at. We see the Ariel, we see 1 copy of Hades, we see 3 Storms to go along with the Bells, T-Pose in here along with Sails and Fishbones. 1 copy of Maurice's Workshop is the anomaly here. We're not running Oswald or any of the ways to cheat this in, but I think 1 copy is pretty good. We're still running a wide item package, so if you can make this stick, then the value's definitely gonna add up over the course of the game. 2 copies of Last Cannon as opposed to any Shield of Arendelle, so valuing that Challenger 3 certainly going to help to take out opposing Tamatoas. The 6 drop at least. Chenpo, anything big and bulky. So Kendall Burdett performing super well in this large event with Sapphire Steel. Congratulations to him. Also in top 16, we have Justin Shaft on this Sapphire Steel deck with Lucky Dimes, but we are running 2 copies of Maurice's Workshop, and we're running 4 copies of Oswald, who whenever you ink, you can look at the top card of your deck. If it's an item, you can play it for free. So certainly some high rolls available by running this Oswald, but we're also running 3 copies of Queen Diviner, who can exert, and you look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal an item and add it to your hand, and if that item costs 3 or less, then you can play it for free. So that's everything except the dime. We got 2 Greatstone Dragons in here along with the Fishbone Quill, so good odds for this to hit, and hopefully a wide enough item package that Oswald has good odds to hit, although I've seen him miss a lot. But the Queen at least is a 4-card dig, right? So that's pretty cool. Only 3 Scrooges seems low in this deck that's like soul in on items. Personally, I think I would just run 4. 1 Ariel, no Hades in here, just 2 copies of Storm to go along with the Bell. So again, a lot of similarities, but opting for the Oswald engine and going all in with 3 copies of the Queen as well to synergize with it further. So a great performance from Justin. Great to see this doing well. Congratulations to them. And our final Sapphire Steel deck in this event, in top 16, we have Cody with the first different looking list. This is more akin to a Kiwi Bird style of list. Shout out to Justin and Harlan Sweet. Just opting to play our curve. We've got the 3 copies of Alice in here to where she has Ward, and when she quests, she can give Ward and an extra lore pip. We've got Docs in here to be the way that we're going to replenish our hand. 4 copies of Mulan as well, just to filter through the early game and stick a body with 2 strength. We're running 4 copies of Bell. Our items are the 4 Porpsicle and the 4 Fortisphere, but this is more than enough. 1 copy of the So Shiny Tamatoa. Also 2 copies of Miss Bianca, who you can play for 4 if you have an ally in play. Well, you pay 2 less for, which is 4 if you have an ally in play. Who are our allies? It's Doc, Mr. Smee, Lawrence is an ally, and Pluto. So a good amount of allies to be able to play her. If you went Smee on 2 and Lawrence on 3, then that sets this up nicely. We're also running 2 copies of Aurora, Dreaming Guardian from the first chapter. 5 cost inkable, 3/5 quest for 2. She's a shift 3, which is irrelevant, and your other characters gain Ward, which is pretty cool. Obviously we've got the Cogsworth here who has Ward and gives Blanket Resist. This Aurora is going to give Blanket Ward to your characters, which is going to be super cool. Alice already kind of helps to do this because she has Ward herself and gives Ward to other characters. So I'd love to know how much this Aurora actually came up for Cody. It's certainly going to be relevant in a high steel format in general with Zeus's, and a lot of the Ruby Sapphire decks are moving to Maleficent Monstrous Dragons as well, so this is a nice way to protect your Tamatoa or something. That's going to have messed up the lighting because Hades has moved onto the windowsill, but more power to you, son. But yeah, this looks super, super nice, and it's a surprise to see only 1 of these Sapphire Steel decks from this event be the Kiwi Bird style, because I know there's a lot of fans of this, and it does seem super strong at the moment. But yeah, like the Dime version's coming out on top, but great to see this version doing well and represented. Congratulations to Cody. Going back to top 4, the first of many Ruby Sapphire lists. This is, I don't know if it's Nia or Ni. 61 cards, worth mentioning. Running, which in the past I'd have called the Sisu on Ice version, but Sisu on Coil at this moment in time. This Coil, whenever you ink, you lower the strength of a character by 2, and this does not say once, so if you can ink multiple times, courtesy of our ramp, which is Tipo, Sail the Azure at Sea, and 1 copy of Greatstone Dragon, and 2 copies of How Far I'll Go, then you could potentially do this multiple times in a turn, especially if you've got multiple Coils on the board, which are going to synergize with the 3, 4 Sisu line, the 2 Medusa in here, and 4 copies of Brawl, so a heck of a lot of removal. As I mentioned, 3 Tipo, just 3 copies of Grand Martala, which sometimes is going to be your 3 or 4 drop of choice, depending on the opponent's board state, just to get some more stats down, and you can sing How Far I'll Go, etc. 1 copy of Kuzco, Respect, and 1 copy of Hideaway, so 1 of each to get rid of opposing items and location. I like the 1-1 split. Kuzco gets around Pete. It's also sticking a body on board who can quest and work with Dime, so I like that. 3 copies of Maleficent Dragon, becoming something of a staple in these more grindy Ruby Sapphire lists. I say more grindy, like as opposed to like a DK Shark, DKP sort of list, which is still a long game, right? But they're utilizing sharks, manas, things like this. And these dragons really here to answer opposing Tamatoas, the 6 or the 8 cost, or even opposing Sisus, or again, opposing Maleficent Dragons. So yeah, pride of place in this deck at the moment. 2 copies of Be Prepared is a bit low for me in a non-shark build personally, but they're here. Well, there's lots of other removal. We are running 4 copies of Big Sisu, and if the goal here is to get multiple Coil, then hopefully 2 B prep is enough. 1 copy of Vitalosphere, even without the shark, this is still useful. Suddenly Maleficent Dragon, if you've got the ink to pay for it all, then you're giving Rush and taking out something like a McDuck Mana. And of course, it's just a 1-cost item to work with Flavisham and our Tamatoas. 1 Greatstone Dragon in here. And we're also seeing 1 copy of the Sword of Truth, which is a 4-cost uninkable item. Banish this item, banish chosen villain character. Gulp. And I took that personally. This is super cool. I really like this inclusion. For a start, it's an item, so it's already got synergy with our deck, and we can get it back. And there are great targets for this, opposing Maleficent Dragons, but like Tamatoas are the big one, either the 6 or the 8 cost. This is a really nice bit of simple removal for them. Also Tremaines, if you're against Ruby Amethyst, or to be fair, so I've seen some Ruby Sapphire lists running Tremaines themselves, so that. SteelSong has Pete, which isn't a great hit, but I think it's their only villain. But the Tamatoas alone are good, and again, we can kind of get away with playing a few cheeky, uninkable techs because of Tipo, things like that. So yeah, super good performance from Ni, or Nia, I apologise for the mispronunciation. 61 cards, again, worth mentioning. No one tell Lorcana, but congratulations to them. Also in top 4, we've got Ernest with a very similar sort of deck. We're not running that cheeky Sword of Truth, but a lot of the same sort of things. We are on 2 Kuzco as opposed to any copies of Hideaway. Only 2 copies of the Big Boy Tamatoa seems a little low to me, but it's not heinous. 2 copies of Vitalosphere for that extra item, and yeah, a lot of the same sort of things going on here for Vision. Congratulations to Ernest. Also in top 8, we have Bannable Harker, friend of the channel, member of Team Maelstrom. I had the pleasure of having Bannable on for a group podcast quite a while ago now. But yeah, misses content to be honest, but a great player and a great guy, and awesome to see a top performance from him at this event, running a very similar list to the 2 we've just talked about. We're on 2 Kuzco as opposed to any Hideaway. Only 1 Tamatoa. Well, there you go. So that tells you what I know. If Bannable's saying only one is okay, then hey, that's something I'm certainly going to listen to. 2 copies of Greatstone Dragon. We got 1 Let It Go in here as well for an extra bit of removal, a bit more reliable than something like the Sword of Truth. And we're running 1 cheeky copy of Pirate's Life, which tend to just be in the Shark versions here, so they might not always see this coming. So yeah, Bannable, great guy, great player. Congratulations to him. Also in top 8, we've got Scott Markison. I recognise the name. I feel like this person goes by an online alias that I might recognise. Nonetheless, congratulations to Scott, running a very similar list, but we have found room for 4 copies of that Maui Shark. It's not a DK P sort of list. There's no Goofies here. There's no McDuck manners. But these Maui Sharks, still super good. Still something that requires an answer. Going to take advantage of this wide item package. Makes sense that we're seeing hideaways as opposed to Kuzgos because we want the action synergy. And then the typical cheap as Sail, Vision. No Develop Your Brain in here. But how far I'll go, 2 copies of Pirate's Life. And the 4 Coil, of course, to synergize with our Sisu's, Medusas, and Brawl. So looks good. Congratulations to Scott. Going on to top 16, we've got Christian, also on Ruby Sapphire. That's going to be popular today. 2 copies of Kuzco and 1 Hideaway. So a lot of location and item hate from Christian. We are on Coil, so we've got the typical Sisu's, 1 Medusa, and 4 Brawl. No Sharks in here. 3 copies of Maleficent. Again, only 1 copy of Tamatawa So Shiny. So, you know, clearly that's right. Or at least acceptable. 1 Vitalisphere. Just 1 Be Prepared. I'm always going to think is a little bit low, personally. But a great performance from Christian. 1 Greystone Dragon in here as well. And of course, the Dime. Congratulations to them. Also in top 16 on Ruby Sapphire, we've got Peter. 2 copies of Kuzco for Peter. The Coils to go with the Sisu's, Brawl, Medusa, etc. A lot of the same sort of things going on here. 3 copies of Tamatawa So Shiny, though. So clearly prioritized a little bit more by Peter. Congratulations to him. And our final Ruby Sapphire list from this event, we have Santiago, who is running a very similar list to all those we just talked through, although we're seeing 2 hideaways as opposed to any Kuzcos. Kuzco seeming very popular at the moment. Welcome back, Hades. The big thing here is in addition to 4 copies of Coil, we're still running 2 copies of Ice Block, which I really like. Sometimes this is just your preferred curve to be able to play your strength reducer on 1 and ramp on 2. Sometimes that's just going to be a better curve. It's an extra item to go with the Tamatawas and the Flavisham. Tamatawa at a 4 count here. So yeah, I really like this. I'd have maybe liked Kuzco's as opposed to Hideaway or 1 of each, but other than that, big fan of this list. So congratulations to Santiago. Alright, also on top 16, on something different. If you just skip to this part, just type me in the comments now, and I don't blame you. We've got Scott with some SteelSong, 61 cards. But great to see SteelSong represented, although just the 1 today. We are seeing that Robin Hood line, which it seems a while since I've seen a Robin Hood line in SteelSong, which may seem weird to say, but a lot of people going over to the sort of Zach Bivens sort of build, where along with Ariel you play a Gaston. But some people opting to play a different 3-cost Singer 5, including Scott with 2 copies of the new Aurora, who's a 3-cost inkable 1/4 quest for 2. Singer 5. Don't know where that... I don't know, mate. Whenever you remove 1 or more damage from a character, ready this character. She can't quest or challenge for the rest of the turn. I'm talking parcel tongue, mate. So yeah, she's super interesting. Obviously, she's super bad into red decks. Dies to Brawl, dies to Sisu. If you can get this ability off, if you're able to quest with her or sing something with her and then play your Rapunzel to heal something, and then you can re-ready her and she can sing something else, be it a song, a whole new world, or a Zeus or something like that. She can't quest again, but you could have a quest once, and questing for 2 is pretty good. I'm still not a huge fan of Aurora, but players better than me in general and much more experienced in SteelSong are quite rating this Aurora, so maybe she'll be around for a while. 3 copies of the Troubadour with that 1/3 Singer 4 to sing a lot of our songs, and as an ally allows us the potential turn for Miss Bianca, who's a super reliable singer. We've got 1 Cinderella Stout-Hearted to threaten that shift onto the 1-drop. 2 copies of Prince Naveen with that Singer 6, and on play playing a 6-cost song for free, so a Panic Whole New World, or play a Zeus and just really try and flip the tempo. 1 copy of The World's Greenest Criminal Mind, of course 3 Daisy, the typical aggro stuff like Smee, Lawrence, Pete to shut down those actions. So yeah, well done to Scott for being the 1 SteelSong to make it through. Also in top 16, we have 1 Ruby Amethyst list by Nicholas. So great to see this represent 61 cards. Great to see Ruby Amethyst in Top Cut. Great to see a couple of card preferences that I've said very loudly recently on multiple channels that I think is a good way to run Ruby Amethyst. We're seeing 2 copies of Be King Undisputed, which I'm a big fan of, against anything that wants to fishbone and just ramp into a shark or a Tamatoa. An early Be King is great, and even if they do have a protection character, if you can go into turn 6 and you can have a 4-cost character or a Maui or whatever, or in this deck Elsa, sing the Be King and then play the Tremaine to get round like the Tremaine bait, then that's super good. And just this Tremaine ability I think is super important to be able to compete with the Sapphire meta that we're in against the Toas, and for those that are still running Shark, that Shark's not great for us. But we're running 4 Tremaine along with 2 Be King. Now, don't get me wrong, like, I'm on 2 Tremaine, 2 Be King, and I feel like that is about right. Although sometimes I've been tempted to just take out the Be Kings and switch to Tremaines. But the Be Kings when they do give value, they give a lot of value. Do I think that 6 of the Tremaine effect seems high? Not necessarily, and it performed well for Nicholas in this event. I'm not saying I'm immediately going to jump to 4 Tremaine and 2 Be King Undisputed, but again, I do think it's a super important ability to be able to have when you need it. So I absolutely get it. We've got 3 B Prep, which I think always run 4 personally. 3 copies of the Library, which I like, and we're running 3 copies of the new Queen of Hearts, who I've said I think is super good into the Steel decks. I think she's 90% of the time she's good on exactly turn 2. And even then, sometimes you'd rather just play the Kuzco to work with the crab. But if you are against like SteelSong or like Kiwi Bird, Queen of Hearts can be really good. You get a lot of value out of her. And I don't think it's right to run too many copies because she's a terrible top deck. I've been on 2. 3 seems reasonable though, like just to increase the odds that you're going to hit it if you feel like that's the kind of meta the room you're in. If that's what the meta is, that there's a lot of steel, there's a lot of Kiwi, then I can understand 3. Only 3 crab seems low to me just because so many of your characters want this crab, the Diablos, the Kuzcos, and the Queen of Hearts. I think it's super important to have. Only 3 fox. I mean, like, I don't hate it. Like, let's put it this way. If this was 4 crab, 3 fox, I could maybe forgive this a little more because I think the crab can be more valuable a lot of the time, but we're not running any snake, which is why I don't like only 3 fox, because I think it's still important to be able to bounce your rabbits and your goats. You don't have as much need to bounce your Tremaines because you've got so many of the ability, but bouncing goats and foxes are still super good, and foxes are still super good against like locations and mines and stuff. Only 2 Sisu in Bolden Warrior I think is actually fine. I'm on 3, and I think just running 2 of this is fine, but that's normally when you're running like a full 4/4 of crab and fox, and then I'm just running 3 extra Sisu because it's like on the play it can be a better 3-drop, and even just later on in the game it's not a bad top deck to put down something that quests for 2 if you're in a point of the game where you're just racing, and if your opponent has got much of a hand then it's gonna be a nice beat stick, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just a nice way to like plump out the deck a little bit. So 2 Sisu is fine. Only 2 Genie I'm not a huge fan of really. I think they're terrible into Sisus, terrible into Zeuses. That being said, on the Lorcanito ladder recently, my only losses have been to Emerald decks, like 1 discard deck, which is never a great matchup, and then I've lost twice to the new EA discard deck that's running Diablos and the Dual Link Diablo. That's a problem for the deck that I'm running, but I'm not running Elsa's, which this deck is, and I think that if there was a lot of that in the room, a lot of Emerald, a lot of extra Diablo, whether with Steel or with Amethyst, then this Elsa would have put in a lot of work. We've got 1 Medusa on top of the 4 Lady Tremaine, but yeah, Genie, like, sometimes it can be nice just to have to have an evasive answer, but you're already running 3 Elsa. I would like to see these 2 Genies cut, to be honest, and just go up to 4 Rabbit, and then you're at 60 cards, and I think I'd prefer that. So yeah, those are my thoughts. A lot I like about this deck. A couple of things I do question, but overall, I like a lot of the choices here, and great to see Ruby Amethyst performing well, so congratulations to Nicholas. Alright, going over to our second event, Red Sabre Games. A lot of Ruby Sapphire in this one, so we're not going to spend too long on any individual list. We'll just mention a couple of the preferences. In first place, though, Christian with 61 cards. Huge congratulations to him. Again, this was a huge event. Ruby Sapphire, classic Coil build. We've got 3 copies of Maleficent. We've got 4 copies of Kuzco. So a lot of item and location hate in here. here. 1 Pirate's Life, 1 B Prep, 2 How Far I'll Go seems low to me. I think this is such a good card. 1 Great Stone Dragon. Congratulations to Christian. In top 4, we've got Caesar, also on a Sisu Coil list, but we're running 1 copy of Maurice's Workshop. Again, we saw that in an earlier list. Just 1 copy to synergize with these items that we're already playing, I think is perfectly reasonable. 1 copy of Hideaway and 2 Kuzco, so, like, yeah, it just speaks to the Sapphire meta that we're in, right, and the amount of dime. Normally, the amount of McDuck mana, although we haven't looked at a lot today so far, but you can understand why people are putting a lot of slots, dedicating a lot of slots to this item and location. Hey, but yeah, looks good. Congratulations to Caesar. Next up, we've got Christopher Becker, who is running that Coil Sisu package. No Madame Medusa's in here, but we found room for the 4 Maui Shark. 1 Hideaway is the item and location hate of choice, of course, because it's an action. The Visions, the Sails, 3 copies of Pirate's Life, 3 Vitalosphere makes all the sense to if you're going to run a Maui package and steal the 4 6-cost Tamatoa. No dimes in here. Congratulations to Christopher. Next up in top 8, we've got Jevon. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Who is trying to get the best of both worlds, it seems. We have the classic Coil package with the Sisus, 2 Medusa, and 4 Brawl, but we're also putting in half of the DK Shark package. 2 copies of Maui Shark, 2 copies of Super Goof, and 3 copies of McDuck Mana. So hoping to kind of like be able to deviate between styles depending on what the matchup is. 1 copy of Hideaway and 1 copy of Kuzco for location and item hate. But yeah, looks cool. Congratulations to Jevon. Also in top 8, we've got Cloud Butler, 61 cards. But this is a Ruby Sapphire list taking advantage of the Oswald to try and cheat in items. In that vein, we've got a wide package. 2 Maurice's Workshop makes sense of all these items. 2 dimes, and we've got the 4 Vitalosphere as well. The 4 Coil, the 4 Fishbone Quill, and 2 Great Stone Dragon. And of course, 4 Scrooge in here to take advantage of this item package. The Sisus to work with the Coil. No Medusas, only 3 copies of Brawl. But yeah, looks fun. Again, I'm not a huge Oswald believer, but super great performance from Cloud making top 8, so congratulations to them. In top 16, we've got Raymond on 61 cards, the classic Sisu Coil variant here, 2 Kuzcos. We are seeing 1 copy of Lady Tremaine, which is a nice bit of spice, not that common in the Ruby Sapphire matchup, so in the mirror, they're unlikely to see this coming, so I can see the value. Looks nice. Congratulations to Raymond. And our final Ruby Sapphire list, we got there. We've got James, who is running some spice. We're again seeing this 1 copy of the Sword of Truth, where we spoke through the potential uses of that earlier. But this deck running 3 copies of Prince John Goldlover, who is a 4-cost inkable 3/4 quest for 1. You can exert, play an item from your hand, or discard with cost 5 or less for free. So that's anything but the dime. I'm surprised to not see a few, like at least like 1 copy of Workshop, something like that in here, and maybe even like an extra copy of Sword of Truth since you've got this synergy. And there's a couple of other like not bad items that you can run, like Poisoned Apple and the Plank banishes a hero, and there's a lot of heroes in format. So yeah, I'm surprised to not see like at least 1 more thing to work with this, especially since you're running 3. But great to see it do well at this event, so congratulations to James. Going back to 2nd place, the most interesting of the list we've looked through today, we have Adam with some Amber Steel Aggro. We're running 1 copy of Rapunzel's Tower, which is a 2-cost inkable location, 1 to move there, 8 willpower, no passive lore, but characters there get +3 willpower. Now we're running the typical aggro package. We do have 4 Cinderella and 3 Storm and 4 Strength. But aggro wise, we've got 4 Daisies, 4 Lilo, 4 copy of the Escape Artist Lilo as well, 4 Piglet, of course 4 Smee, and 4 Lawrence. We've got 2 copies of Captain Hook here to just have a bit of a way to combat the board a little bit more. 4 copies of Nala with that 0/4 to hopefully get out a couple of lore, and she's one of our best ways of setting up Rapunzel traps along with Lawrence. But there's a couple more good Rapunzel traps in here. We've got 1 copy of Fix It Felix Jr., who's a 3-cost inkable 2/4 quest for 1 with Bodyguard. Now I was looking at this, I was like, why? Because like there's Baloo, there's Donald, the 2/3 musketeer that gives extra lore pip and has Bodyguard. So prioritizing this for willpower. Now, one thing I did think of off the top of my head is that if you're against a Sapphire deck that ramps on 2, And if you're aggro, if you go like Lilo on turn 1 or Daisy, then if they're ramping on 2, they're more prioritized to play a Grandma Tala on 3 as opposed to like a Flavisham, which cannot get over this Fix-It Felix Jr. Yeah, because you could T-Po in... Yeah, if you're against aggro, you would want to go T-Po into Tala a lot of the time, I think. So yeah, and then you would wait for the Tala to be able to banish the Baloo or the Donald Duck. And then your T-Po would hopefully take out the Lilo. So that's one line, and I'm sure there's others. Again, it went just with songs as well, like it's that 1 more damage for strength. So, yeah. But we're also running 4 copies of Little John Robin's Pal. 3 cost Inkable, 2/4 quest for 1, also a bodyguard, and during your turn, this character gains evasive. So just putting a lot of value on this 2/4 stat line, and again, that's without mentioning the Rapunzel's Tower synergy to make these guys suddenly have 7 willpower, which is an awful lot to get around. Even Maui, 5-cost Maui doesn't get over it, and your questing aggressive characters seem safe. Maybe there's a mistake, but I kind of like it. I hope there's not, but nonetheless, a huge congratulations to Adam. And one more SteelSong list in top 16, Loris. Again, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Maybe it's Laurie. The exact same list. Congratulations to them. Next up in top 8, we have David with some EA Diablo, which I'm not a fan of. Not because I don't think it's good, but because Ruby Amethyst players hate Diablo. They hate green decks in general. Yeah, so we're running the Floodborn Diablo, who we all know and love, and lots of shift targets. Of course, the 4 Maleficent Spy, also 4 copies of the Obedient Raven, who has great other synergies in here because we're running 4 copies of the Big Crab. We're also running 2 copies of the new Dual Link Spiteful Raven, who's a 2-cost Inkable 1/2 quest for 1, evasive, and Challenger 2. So can certainly be annoying. 3 copies of Go-Go for hopefully a big lore burst. Ursula to snipe those songs. I mentioned 4 Crab and 3 Fox in here to combat the board. I said earlier, I actually think if you're going to run 3 of one or the other, then I would put the emphasis on running Crabs. Even though there's only Diablos in here, there's no like Queen, obviously no Queens, that's a red card, but no Kuzcos or anything like that. But I still think Crab is that good. We're running 2 copies of Prince John to take advantage of our discard, which in this deck is just 4 copies of Hypnotize, 4 copies of Sudden Chill, and we're running 4 copies of We Don't Talk About Bruno, which can just be spot removal, and of course is also discard. 2 copies of Hidden Cove to ruin our opponent's maths, take Diablo out of Brawl range, take the 2-cost Diablo out of Sisu range, unless they've got the Coil or something like that, of course. I think it's brave running this in such a wide Ruby Sapphire and Sapphire Steel meta. Like, it just seems like it would be such a bad matchup, but it's destroyed me in my Ruby, like, Ruby Amethyst. I want the Sapphire decks. I see this, I facepalm immediately. Yeah, not a fan of the fact that this is becoming a little bit popular. Again, not because it's not good, but because Ruby Amethyst player, I don't like it, but nonetheless, congratulations to David. In top 8, we've got Chronic Chaos, hopefully I'm saying that right, with some Emerald Steel discard. We've already talked about Diablo stuff, but this deck also running 3 copies of Ursa Deceiver of All to double sing songs, nice double Sudden Chill or a double Storm or Strength are all pretty good. 3 copies of the Muses. Whenever you play a song, you can bounce a character of 2 strength or less, so against aggressive decks and things like Flavishams, and there's lots of targets for this, but you can also bounce back your own characters, your Lucifer, your Ursulas, either Ursula, things like that. Pete to shut down those actions. I mentioned 2 copies of Lucifer Cunning Cat, which is super cheeky at the moment, a potential 2-card discard. 3 copies of the Big Pete to shift onto the smaller Pete, who I really like, big bulky body. 4 copies of the Tragic Hero Beast to be another potential draw engine. Also 4 copies of Morphin here, so we potentially have this on turn 3, which is pretty nice. And yeah, I think this is pretty much the skeleton for Emerald Steel going forward. You might not always see the Lucifers, and maybe sometimes a lower count of Morph, Beast, things like that, but a lot of this is the same sort of song that we've been singing for a while, but congratulations to Chronic Chaos. And also on Emerald Steel in top 16, we have Donald. A lot of the same sort of cards, although we're running 2 copies of Tinkerbell in here and 1 copy of Cricky, who's quest for 3 and gives challenge of 3 to all your characters on play. But the spice in here is we've got 3 copies of Scar Vengeful Lion. 4-cost Inkable 4/2 quest for 1, Ward, and Life's Not Fair, is it? Life's not fair, is it? Answer me. He has I've just said the ability. Whenever one of your characters challenges a damaged character, you may draw a card. We got Tinkerbell that's going to do that damage. Maybe we did a Storm for a bit of chip and then we challenged. Maybe it's just because we're doubling in. One thing's challenging, surviving, then we're challenging again, and drawing even more cards. I love it. I'm a big fan. I mean, I don't like Emerald Steel Discard, but this Scar, with this Scar, I like it a little bit more. So congratulations to Donald. In top 16, we have our one and only Blurple list, courtesy of Mahid is my guess. But again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing. Looking a lot like Blurple was looking in the last set. And again, I feel like this probably has an okay Sapphire Steel matchup, and probably not Ruby Sapphire, I don't know, it depends how well they set up really, but this is a pretty fun and strong ink combination. Gains the bell as a new toy, but only with 4 copies of Paw Patrol to be the item that synergizes there. We're not even running Flavisham. We've got the traditional purple bounce engine here with just 3 rabbit. 4 genie makes all the sense in Blurple if you can play it on 3, is my belief. 2 copies of snake, 4 fox, 4 crab, 4 Chernobog, and 3 broom. I think I would prefer Diablos personally, but more power to you. 1 copy of Kuzco for that item and location, and 1 copy of Hideaway. Only 3 go, I don't agree with personally, but more power to you. 2 copies of the Big Elsa, who can shift onto, of course, the 4 copies of the 5th Spirit. Running 2 copies of Belle as well, Accomplished Mystic, which can certainly be annoying if you've got some damage floating on the board. And 1 copy of the new Queen Jealous Beauty, who you can exert, and you put 3 cards from your opponent's discard at the bottom of their deck and gain 3 lore. And if one was a princess, which Belle is in a lot of decks and is a princess, then you gain 4 lore instead. I think this is a great home for this queen, and I'm a big fan of her. But yeah, awesome to see Blurple performing well, and yeah, I can definitely see why this could have a good Sapphire Steel matchup. And against Ruby Sapphire, I think it's super dependent on how well they're able to maintain their coils. Because outside of that, if they're just relying on Sisus and they're at a lower B prep count, if they're not able to get Sisus down and get that going, then I think Blurple probably feels quite good into it. But congratulations to Mahid. Alright, 2 lists left to look at, both the same in combination, Amethyst Steel. We've got Calvin Jin here, the new toy here being 3 copies of the King Cobra, who has that Vanish keyword, so it's banished if he's targeted by an action, so just a Storm will do, despite the 4/4 stat line, and when you play him, you can discard a card and gain 2 lore, which is a nice burst along with Goats and White Roses. We are an aggro deck, we're not running rabbits, we're on genies, makes all the sense, we're a doc build as well, 4 copies of that, so that's how we're going to play it. We're going to be playing out our hand and replenishing it with Doc, all being well. 3 Bengers, respecting items. 3 copies of Maleficent, biding her time as another super aggressive character. A 4/4/3 set of 1 drops, Bogs, Diablos, and only 3 Broom. 2 Calhoun as another way to control the board, and 4 Strength for Raging Fire as our 1 non-character card. Great to see Amethyst Steel performing well in this event. Congratulations to Calvin. And our final list of the day, another Amethyst Steel. We have Carlos Rodriguez. Generally speaking, Amethyst Steel decks, you're either going to lean into Doc or you're going to lean into Rabbit. I have seen a couple of decks do both. This one leaning into 4 copies of Rabbit. We're not running Doc, so we're hoping to maintain and accumulate card resources and draw a lot of cards. So we've got a 4 bounce engine here with 4 Snake and 4 Fox to hopefully bounce back to hand. And because we've got Genies, Goats, and Rabbits, we can justify 3 copies of it. Then along came Zeus. He hurled his Thunderbolt, and it did 5 damage to a locational character. So nice removal, and 2 copies of Fire the Cannons as well as an additional nice just bit of chip. Diablos, or just again in mirrors, I imagine this can help out to pop a Smee and just keep your head in the race, things like that. So I like it very much. Congratulations to Carlos. And that is it. A lot of lists to look at. There are a lot of events this weekend in general. There was also Lore League, which took place in Italy. I haven't found those lists yet. I'm hoping they'll go out soon, and if all being well, I'll do that in tomorrow's video. And there was also another event on today, Sunday, at the time of recording, for World Class Cards. I think did another 5k. So all being well, if the lists for either or of those events, then we'll cover them in tomorrow's video. But yeah, it's a very heavy sea of Sapphire out there. What do you think? Are we approaching it being a problem? Whether or not we are, with no official Lorcana events taking place in this format, So the words I want to say are, I'm not sure how much it matters, which I already feel like maybe is not the right way of putting it, because it still matters, right? Like for people's, even if there's nothing official, we want to be enjoying the game in the off season. But I'm not enjoying the game. Let me know down below. Try and keep it healthy discourse. But we're pretty much going to leave it there. Just a couple of things though. I am confirmed that I am going to UK Games Expo that's taking place at the end of May. Looks like it's going to be an awesome weekend. On the Friday and the Sunday, there are sealed Reign of Jafar events taking place, and the pricing is absolutely incredible. Like, I think I don't know if it's both events or or just one of them, but first place is like a booster box from every single set. And a bunch more stuff. They get like giving out tons of boxes of Reign. The pricing is really, really good. If you are UK based or UK is not awful for you to travel to, then if you can go to Games Expo, go, is the point I'm making. It looks like it's going to be a really, really awesome weekend. And on Saturday, there's a constructed tournament, although I believe that's set 7 format. Reign of Jafar won't be legal, but the Friday and Sunday are sealed events. But I am going to be there on the Friday and the Saturday, not the Sunday, because that is my birthday. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully be able to get a bunch of content over the course of that weekend. And I'm also going to be attending in Germany next month in Ravensburg. The event, it's on the 20, I think it's the 23rd, 24th. It's the 20-something. It's happening in Ravensburg next month. It's not official, but it's been organised by Ravensburg, and there were like 512 tickets that were sold. Please don't scratch my chair, dude. There were like 512 tickets available, something like that, and they all sold out pretty instantly, but I was able to get one, so I'm super excited for that. Let me know down below if you're going to be at either of those events. But that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show support, and we'll see you soon.